Hi BookTube! Are you sick of seeing my face yet? Are you sick of these 12 videos? I hope not, because I'm here with another one, and this is 12 audiobooks I want to read in 2021. And I'll link the other 12 videos. They're in the Vlogmas 2020 playlist if you want to watch those. So what I do is I choose 12 books, one for each month of the year that I want to read, and I'm setting up my TBR really early because I find set TBRs actually work for me. I know they don't work for everyone, but they really do work for me. So instead of just vaguely saying, you know, at some point next year I want to read this audiobook, I'm actually like saying, no, in January, in February, in March, I'm listening to these audiobooks. Yeah, and these aren't just the only audiobooks for that month. I might read some more depending on how long or short these are. So there are some guidelines for me picking audiobooks. So first of all, I had a bunch. So I asked Google for random numbers, and that correlated to a row of files on my computer, and then from that row I had the choice. And my choices, I prefer a female author, prefer an author of color, prefer an author from a country other than Canada, US, or the UK to hit some goals of mine, and I prefer some nonfiction as well. I really like listening to nonfiction on audio. Did I hit all of those? Let's see. This book seems to be about a lot of stuff. History, family drama, murder, politics, and it's all set in Indonesia, which is a really interesting place to me. I don't think I've read a book set in Indonesia before. It's also inspired by Melville and Gogol and local folktales. So hearing that makes this like sound really cool. I like books that try to do a lot, and that's what this sounds like it's gonna do. In February, I want to read Deer Hunting with Jesus by Joe Bageant, I think is how you pronounce it. And this is a nonfiction. It's from the US. It's from a male perspective, or it's written by a male. So it ticked one box. And it's subtitled Dispatches from America's Class War. And this is kind of, he grew up in working class America in a very conservative, Republican heavy place. And so he goes back and he's wondering why the working poor of America keep voting Republican and how that ties in with Christian fundamentalism. And these topics fascinate me. Both like working poor, politics, religion, and he's combining all three of those things in one story. That just sounds fascinating to me. In March, I will be reading Will in the World by Stephen Greenblatt. This is a nonfiction. Again, it's by an American male author, so I don't think I'm going to find that perfect audiobook that's going to hit all those boxes, but I wanted to try. It's subtitled How Shakespeare Became Shakespeare, and I know a lot about Shakespeare. I studied him intensively in university. I've read his complete works. Like, he's someone I'm fascinated with. I've never read a biography of him. I have a general idea of his life story, but I've never read an actual biography, so this one sounds really cool. And this is kind of tackling that question of how this kind of uneducated man became, you know, the greatest playwright of all time. Like, how did that happen? It doesn't seem logical. That's why there's all these theories that he wasn't actually the author of these plays and stuff like that, because his origins don't really seem to fit with that. I guess Greenblatt's going to go into explaining how that can happen, or how it cannot happen, how it might just be a complete fluke that he just turned into this genius author. I'll find out in March. April. I want to read How to Argue with a Racist by Adam Rutherford, and it's nonfiction, UK, and he's male. I also believe he's white. And this is subtitled What Our Genes Do and Don't Say About Human Difference. And this is about using science to argue against racism and the pseudoscience that allows racism to thrive. And I like to prepare myself for arguments, instead of just going in there all flustered. So I think reading this will give me a good background to bounce off of there. In May, I want to read It's Not About the Burqa by Mariam Khan, and this is subtitled Muslim Women on Faith, Feminism, Sexuality, and Race. And this is an anthology. I think Mariam Khan's just the editor, and she's just collecting stories and writing them down. Khan got sick of the discussion of Muslim women being led by white men. So this is a collection of Muslim women on their lives in the West. Probably most likely from the UK, because that's where she's from. So that sounds quite interesting to read. In June, I'm going to read The Racial Contract by Charles W. Mills. And this is an older text on racism. I hope it's not too out of date. I don't think it will be, because a lot of racism is rooted in history, and it's the same stuff coming forth. So I think this will still be relevant. And it argues that racism is a tacit agreement in the social contract to assert, promote, and maintain the ideal of white supremacy in Europe against all other tribes of the world. So that sounds really interesting. A hard look at the ongoing issues of racism and why there's racism. In July, I want to read The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. And I am very passionate. I know it doesn't always come across. I don't always like showcasing the issues that I'm passionate about. I can't come up with a reason why. It's just something I'm hesitant to do. But I'm very passionate about Palestine and the rights that are being taken away from Palestinians. I don't want to talk about it. Let's not argue in the comments. I will delete your comments if you are pro-Israel. Just saying that right out. Anyways, so this is subtitled A History of Settler, Colonial, Conquest and Resistance from 1917 to 2017. This upends accepted interpretations of the conflict, which tend at best to describe a tragic clash between two people with claims to the same territory. Instead, Khalidi traces 100 years of colonial war on the Palestinians, waged first by the Zionist movement and then Israel, but backed by Britain and the United States. So I'm really interested to read this topic. In August, we're going to do a complete 180, and we're going to read Super Extra Grande by Yoss. And was it last year or the year before I read Planet for Sale, and it was so funny. I enjoyed it so much, and I've been looking forward to listening to another audiobook by him. I think that's a really good way to do it. And this is a space opera. We follow a xeno-veterinarian who treats the variety of creatures in the galactic commonwealth. And Yoss himself actually has a degree in biology, so it'll be interesting to see like how scientific he gets in this science fiction. In September, I want to read Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. And this is a retelling of The Tempest, and we follow the healer Mama Day and her niece Coco, and her niece is in this kind of star-crossed love affair. So as I said, I love Shakespeare, so it'll be really interesting to read this interpretation by a black woman. And she sets it in America too, of course. So that'll be another interesting aspect to see. In October, I can't do scary audiobooks. I know I want to read scary books in October, but I can't. I drive to some places out in the country in the dark, and I can't have a scary audiobook because I'll be terrified. Yeah, and I'll probably end up doing some crazy things, walking to my car and yelling and screaming, and my patients will be like, what is up with her? So I chose a book that kind of felt Halloween-y-ish a bit. And this is How to Behave Badly in Elizabethan England. So there's still that kind of misbehavior, I guess, that you associate with like trick-or-treating and stuff like that. Did I say it was by Ruth Goodman? I hope I did. I think the title just kind of explains this one. It's a nonfiction. It sounds kind of funny. So that's what I'll be reading. In November, I will be reading The Emissary by Yoko Tawada. And this one sounds really cool. This is about a post-apocalyptic world in which children are born ancient and are being raised by their grandparents who seem younger than them. So it's kind of reversal of roles of grandchildren taking care of children when it should be children taking care of grandchildren or grandparents. That's confusing, but anyways, I think you get the point there, hopefully. And lastly, in December, I'm actually really looking forward to this one. I don't know why I put it in December, but I did. and that is Silver, Sword, and Stone by Marie Arana. And this is subtitled 3 Crucibles in the Latin American Story. So a bit of history from me. I took history as a minor in university, and I specialized in Latin American history. I had been to Nicaragua, and I just became super fascinated with the history of Nicaragua, and then further wanting to learn about Latin America. And this book seems right up that alley. It's been a long time since I've explored Latin American history. So this is about 3 contemporary Latin Americans whose lives represent 3 driving forces that have shaped the character of the region. Exploitation, that's what the silver is. Violence, that's what the sword is. And religion, and that's what the stone is. So this just sounds like right there, that metaphors in the title just sounds fascinating to me. So yeah, those are 12 audiobooks I wish to read in 2021. Let me know if you have any plans for your audiobook listening in the next year, and thank you for watching.